Hey, are you truly free? How can you be free if others can decide for you who and what you truly are? How can you be free if your fears rule your thoughts and actions? None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they are free. Keep in mind that your consciousness does not develop in a vacuum. You, like everyone else, have been socialized. We have all been conditioned, programmed into a false self, a social mask that's smaller and limited than what we really are. From the day you were born, you have been taught to smile, appease, and adapt to expectations. Expectations that have been placed upon you from the society and times that you happen to have been born into. No wonder you've lost touch with your true self. Your true self is vaster than the sky, deeper than the ocean, and infinitely more powerful. Let's talk about all this, will we? The Fall of Man Revisited, Part 1. We human beings, in the course of growing up, get lost in our minds. And if we don't find our way out, our minds eventually kill us. To be whole, we must recontact the being that we are and were and evermore will be until the end of each of our times. That being is a creator being, the background hum that keeps us cooking, the basic circuit board, the baseline bars. The cognitive faculties of the mind are a secondary development. The mind is not the primary driving force of life. For thousands of years, humanity has been increasingly mind-possessed, failing to recognize the possessing entity as not self. There are 1,000 things which prevent a man from awakening, which keep him in the power of his dreams. To act consciously with the intention of awakening, it is necessary to know the nature of the forces which keep man in a state of sleep. First of all, it must be realized that the sleep in which man exists is not normal but hypnotic sleep. Man is hypnotized, and this hypnotic state is continually maintained and strengthened in him. One would think that there are forces for whom it is useful and profitable to keep man in a hypnotic state and prevent him from seeing the truth and understanding his position. The existence of a force manipulating and directing human society is an immensely common theme across religions and cultures the world over. The Matrix is an illusionary world created to prevent humans from realizing that they are slaves to an external influence. The good news is, freedom is entirely possible. You can be an unfuckwithable, liberated sovereign being, a deliberate creator being. According to legends worldwide, man was a complete being eons ago, with magnificent insights, feats of awareness, and deeds that are mythological legends to us nowadays. And then everything seems to have disappeared, and we now have a sedated man. Man, the magical being that he is destined to be, is no longer magical. He is an average piece of meat. There are no more dreams for man but the dreams of an animal who is being raised to become a piece of meat. Trite, conventional, imbecilic. Gone are the magnificent insights, feats of awareness, and achievements of ancient times. Those stories are now relegated to mythology, beyond known history. Today, man is lost, confused, weak, blind, conflicted, at war with himself and his home planet, destroying his own life-supporting environment, his only home, complacent, routine, egomaniacal. Is it possible that the mythologies hold some truth? Are our current personal, social, and global problems somehow tied to the legends of the fall of man? Could we find our way back to greatness today? Could we heal our minds using simple psychological methods? Methods such as mindfulness. In other words, is the human species asleep? And can it awaken? And is this something that we can prove and use with repeatable results? I mean, can we awaken the species? Can we do it deliberately, methodically, systematically? Can we do it personally and globally? Is mindfulness the key to all of this? Sheeple, the enslaved people, asleep, most of us. Living in a democracy doesn't mean you're free. It only means that you're free to vote once every 4 or 5 years for people you don't actually really know. Now, these people then go on to do whatever the fuck they want, regardless of what you want. Democracy doesn't mean freedom. It only means a right to vote for your government officials. The right to vote is not the same thing as freedom. Far from it. Now, let's talk about real freedom, true freedom. Socialization. Socialization, the activity of mixing socially with others, the process of learning to behave in a way that is acceptable to society. Let us now further examine socialization, for in knowing how it works, we can better witness the unconscious ego. See it as it attempts to manipulate our divine sovereignty. A society or tribe is a group of people who share a similar set of conditioning, and they share the same fear of disobeying this conditioning. They fear rejection, shame, punishment, and deprivation. The punishment that happens in their society or tribe to people who don't follow the program. The interaction between people who share the same conditioning and fears generates the pressure of society. We sometimes call this pressure peer pressure. And it applies to everyone, not just teenagers. Everyone has this social pressure. Everyone at all ages. It is the pressure to comply to society. This level of socialization creates the corrupted habitual mental preoccupations that we see in our society. That we feel a pressure to comply with in our heads through the voice in our heads, the self-talk. Socialization is a formatted pressure structure, and it survives by creating interconnective compliance to interconnective preoccupational activity. This activity seems normal, yet it is usually meaningless. It creates collective compliance to an interconnected, socially reinforced, narrow and closed system of rewards and punishment. In short, you feel pressure to do what your society is telling you to do, even if it's bullshit. We feel pressure to give away our divine sovereignty in exchange for the security of being accepted by our society, which, as we eventually find out, is really not true security at all. This structure drains our energy, literally. That energy is consumed by the shadow aspect of duality, by fear, by the predator. Fear is a predator, and you can feel it because every time you're in fear, you feel weak and drained, don't you? And you can see the strategy being played out in our society, whereby we seem addicted to fear, and we are fed fear, in the media, in entertainment, in games, and so on. Yet, there is good news. The good news is that this system of socialization relies on our thoughts for its existence. This system of creating sheeple only works if the sheeple agree to it, if we give it our minds. Our internal dialogue, the voice in our head, our self-talk, is built upon years of social conditioning. Without our self-talk, without the voice in our head, the mind chatter, the system collapses. Our very own self-talk is the one thing that maintains this system for generation after generation. It is like a constant nagging that has replaced the silent presence that is your divine true self. This system needs two things to stay alive: our allegiance to our fearful thoughts and the repetition of such thoughts over and over. The same old shit. Every day. The mind chatter, the voice in our heads saying the same old. That is the engine. That is why there is a voice in your head, mental chatter, self-talk. And that is why instead of telling you awesome loving things about you, about your neighbor and about your world, the voice in your head tells you fearful or limiting things about you, about your neighbor and about your world. That is the purpose of your self-talk, the voice in your head. In this system, its purpose is not to help you to live well. Its purpose is to maintain itself through repetitive fearful thoughts. It is a program, a broken program. There is a hidden agenda behind that thought stream, that voice in your head. You actually don't need it. It isn't just there by random chance. It is there by design, for a purpose. It didn't just appear into our minds through the pure chance of human evolution. It was injected into society. It is a predator. Now, when a baby is born, they don't have this voice in their heads, but as they grow, society injects it into them, and soon the baby grows up and becomes as fucked up as whatever society raised him. The baby becomes programmed, conditioned, socialized. It carries a false self. When you interact with yourself or with others, you can do so from either your true self or from your false self. When you interact from your false self, you maintain and extend this structure. When you interact from your true self, you break down this control structure. The truth shall set you free. Freedom doesn't come from compliance with socialization. It comes from truth. And the truth is within you. We can see that this false self, this unconscious ego, is the cause of personal drama and suffering. Can we then also see how, en masse, this exact same problem is the reason why we have all the drama, war, and chaos of the world? We need awakening to our true selves. And radical mindfulness is a powerful way to create this awakening. When mindfulness is practiced as a way of life in all our moments, it results in self-awareness. And then we experience unconditional self-acceptance, unconditional love, freedom from fear and its delusions, and we experience our eventual awakening. If taught worldwide, mindfulness can awaken entire societies and eventually the planet itself. It can awaken the species. We will get back to mindfulness in a moment. The Fall of Man Revisited, Part 2. Don Juan, the Mexican Yaqui Indian shaman, tells Carlos Castañeda the following: "We have a predator that came from the depths of the cosmos and took over the rule of our lives eons ago. Human beings are its prisoners. The predator is our lord and master. It has rendered us docile, helpless. If we want to protest, it suppresses our protest. If we want to act independently, it demands that we don't do so. This was an energetic fact known to the sorcerers of ancient Mexico. I've been beating around the bush all this time, insinuating to you that something is holding us prisoner. No, Carlos replies. This is absurd, Don Juan. What you're saying is something monstrous. It simply can't be true for sorcerers or for average men or for anyone. Why not? Don Juan asks calmly. Why not? Because it infuriates you? I want to appeal to your analytical mind. Think for a moment and tell me how you would explain the contradictions between the intelligence of man the engineer and the stupidity of his systems of beliefs, or the stupidity of his contradictory behavior. Sorcerers believe that the predators have given us our systems of belief, our ideas of good and evil, our social mores. They are the ones who set up our hopes and expectations and dreams of success and failure. They have given us covetousness, greed, and cowardice. It is the predators who make us complacent, routine, and egomaniacal. But how can they do this, Don Juan? Carlos asked, somehow angered further by what Don Juan was saying. Do they whisper all that in our ears while we are asleep? No, they don't do it that way. That's idiotic, Don Juan said, smiling. They are infinitely more efficient and organized than that. In order to keep us obedient and meek and weak, the predators engage themselves in a stupendous maneuver. Stupendous, of course, from the point of view of a fighting strategist. A horrendous maneuver from the point of view of those who suffer it. They gave us their mind. Do you hear me? The predators gave us their mind, which becomes our mind. The predator's mind is baroque, contradictory, morose, filled with the fear of being discovered any minute now. Why has this predator taken over in this fashion that you're describing, Don Juan? Carlos asked. There must be a logical explanation. Oh, there is an explanation, Don Juan replied, which is the simplest explanation in the world. They took over because we are food for them, and they squeeze us mercilessly because we are their sustenance. Just as we rear chickens in chicken coops, the predators rear us in human coops. Therefore, their food is always available to them. I know that even though you have never suffered hunger, you have food anxiety, survival anxiety, which is none other than the anxiety of the predator who fears that at any moment now its maneuver is going to be uncovered and food is going to be denied. Through the mind, which after all is their mind, the predators inject into the lives of human beings whatever is convenient for them, and they ensure in this manner a degree of security to act as a buffer against their fear. The sorcerers of ancient Mexico were quite ill at ease with the idea of when the predator made its appearance on Earth. They reasoned that man must have been a complete being at one point, with stupendous insights, feats of awareness that are mythological legends nowadays. And then everything seems to have disappeared, and we now have a sedated man. What I'm saying is that what we have against us is not a simple predator. It is very smart and organized. It follows a methodical system to render us useless. Man, the magical being that he is destined to be, is no longer magical. He is an average piece of meat. There are no more dreams of man, but the dreams of an animal who is being raised to become a piece of meat. Trite, conventional, imbecilic. Don Juan explained that sorcerers see infant human beings as strange, luminous balls of energy covered from top to bottom with a glowing coat, something like a plastic cover that is adjusted tightly over their cocoon of energy. He said that that glowing coat of awareness was what the predators consumed, and that when a human being reached adulthood, all that was left of that glowing coat of awareness was a narrow fringe that went from the ground to the top of the toes. That fringe permitted mankind to continue living, but only barely. As if I were in a dream, I heard Don Juan explaining that, to his knowledge, man was the only species that had the glowing coat of awareness outside that luminous cocoon. Therefore, he became easy prey for an awareness of a different order, such as the heavy awareness of the predator. He said that this narrow fringe of awareness was the epicenter of self-reflection, where man was irremediably caught. By playing on our self-reflection, which is the only point of awareness left to us, the predators create flares of awareness that they proceed to consume in a ruthless, predatory fashion. They give us inane problems that force those flares of awareness to rise, and in this manner they keep us alive in order for them to be fed with the energetic flare of our pseudo-concerns, unnecessary preoccupations with fear. This predator, Don Juan said, which of course is an inorganic being, is not altogether invisible to us as other inorganic beings are. I think as children we do see it, but we decide it's so horrific that we don't want to think about it. Children, of course, could insist on focusing on the sight, but everybody else around them dissuades them from doing so. The only alternative left for mankind is discipline. Discipline is the only deterrent. But by discipline, I don't mean harsh routines. I don't mean waking up every morning at 5:30 and throwing cold water on yourself until you're blue. Sorcerers understand discipline as a capacity to face, with serenity, odds that are not included in our expectations. For sorcerers, discipline is an art. The art of facing infinity without flinching, not because they are strong and tough, but because they are filled with awe. Facing infinity without flinching. Mindfulness, awareness, waking up, facing your fears. Sorcerers say that discipline makes the glowing coat of awareness unpalatable to the predator. The result is that the predators become bewildered. An inedible glowing coat of awareness is not part of their cognition, I suppose. After being bewildered, they don't have any recourse other than refraining from continuing their nefarious task. If the predators don't eat our glowing coat of awareness for a while, it will keep on glowing. Simplifying this matter to the extreme, I can say that sorcerers, by means of their discipline, push the predators away long enough to allow their glowing coat of awareness to grow beyond the level of the toes. Once it goes beyond the level of the toes, it grows back to its natural size. The sorcerers of ancient Mexico used to say that the glowing coat of awareness is like a tree. If it is not pruned, it grows to its natural size and volume. As awareness reaches levels higher than the toes, tremendous maneuvers of perception become a matter of course. The grand trick of those sorcerers of ancient times was to burden the predator's mind with this discipline. Sorcerers found out that if they taxed the predator's mind with inner silence, the foreign installation would flee, and give any one of the practitioners involved in this maneuver the total certainty of the mind's foreign origin. The mind control of these creatures comes back, I assure you, but not as strong, and a process begins in which the fleeing of the predator's mind becomes routine until one day it flees permanently. Discipline taxes the predator's mind to no end, he said. So, through their discipline, sorcerers vanquish the foreign installation. The predator's mind flees forever when a sorcerer succeeds in grabbing onto the vibrating forces that holds us together as a conglomerate of energy fields. If a sorcerer maintains that pressure long enough, the predator's mind flees in defeat. And that's exactly what you're going to do. Hold on to the energy that binds you together. You are fearing the wrath of God, aren't you? He said. Rest assured, that's not your fear. It is the predator's fear, because it knows that you are willing to do exactly as I'm telling you. Don't worry, Don Juan said calmly. I know for a fact that these attacks wear off very quickly. The predator's mind has no concentration whatsoever. The predators are an essential part of the universe, and they must be taken as what they really are. Awesome, monstrous. They are the means by which the universe tests us. We are energetic probes created by the universe, he continued, as if he were oblivious to my presence. And it's because we are possessors of energy that has awareness that we are the means by which the universe becomes aware of itself. The predators are the implacable challengers. They cannot be taken as anything else. If we succeed in doing that, the universe allows us to continue. There are beings in the spiritual realms for whom anxiety and fear emanating from human beings offer welcome food. When humans have no anxiety and fear, then these creatures starve. Humans are not the only beings with powerful minds. Attached to humanity are unseen beings that also are an organ of the earth. They share the metabolism of the earth, just as humans do. These beings form a spectrum from benevolent to harmful. They have been present alongside the human race from the beginning. The destiny of these beings and that of humans is intertwined. The Toltecs call them allies. The allies lack a brain, which means they have no factory to create emotions, but they need the ethereal energy of emotions to sustain their life. Allies push humans to create traumas in order to create fear, which they feed upon. The allies had no mechanism to produce the negative emotional energy themselves. They had to turn human emotional energy into negative energy before they could harvest it. In order to turn human emotion into negative, the allies are capable of putting fearful thoughts into the minds of humans, which in turn generates the negative emotion on which they feed. Are you starting to see a pattern here? This idea of mankind's mind being hijacked is ancient and universal, but it has the same conclusion, that the reason we have a mind that seems literally out of our control is not because that this is just human nature, it is because the mind literally has been hijacked. Psychologists, psychiatrists, and philosophers call it the ego or the subconscious. The Buddhist cultures call it the monkey mind. Christians say that demons are behind the deception. Muslims talk of shaitans and jinns. Hinduism talks of samsara, the cycle of aimless drifting, wandering, or mundane existence. The Gnostic Gospels call them archons, shadow creatures who have an ability to infect our perceptions and memories, inserting into our minds a profound alteration in our understanding of the world, a fake version of reality. The book, A Course in Miracles, talks of it as a waking up from the perception created by a mind riddled with fear. African traditions have their own similar explanations. Others call them the illusions of mankind, the illusion of separation. All over the world, this is a common problem of humanity. From east to west, north to south, from the ancient times to this present day, a mind out of control, humanity asleep, lost in a dream. Awakening is the promise, humanity's destiny and birthright, and mindfulness is a tool that enables our awakening. A 20-minute session of mindfulness will leave us feeling centered, calmer, happier. That's just 20 minutes. But when mindfulness is practiced as a way of life in all our moments daily, all day, every day, 24/7, then that's when it really kicks in. It eventually results in awakening, in true freedom. And it can be done. True freedom. Freedom, liberation. This must be the aim of man, to become free, to become liberated from slavery. This is what a man ought to strive for when he becomes even a little conscious of his position. There is nothing else for him, and nothing else is possible so long as he remains a slave both inwardly and outwardly. But he cannot cease to be a slave outwardly while he remains a slave inwardly. Therefore, in order to become free, man must gain inner freedom. The first reason for man's inner slavery is his ignorance, and above all, his ignorance of himself. Without self-knowledge, without understanding the working and functions of his machine, man cannot be free. He cannot govern himself, and he will always remain a slave, and the plaything of the forces acting upon him. This is why in all ancient teachings, the first demand at the beginning of the way to liberation was, know thyself. The price of freedom is a release of the old self-concept that is holding you in bondage and limitation. Healing occurs when one rises above the initial construct that the issue was created in, so that it no longer has power. Mindfulness is a tool that allows us to rise above our programming, our conditioned false self. Mindfulness is the ability to know what is happening in you and with you right now without getting entrapped and carried away by it all. You are an infinite, timeless being, but you are living in a tiny, tiny corner of what you really are. You can be free. It is as if somebody has a palace and has completely forgotten about the palace and has started living on the porch and thinks that is all. Mindfulness brings clarity. You wake up, you expand, you let go of your limitations and programming and conditioning. That is the amazing power of radical mindfulness. Understanding mindfulness, the analogy of the sky and the clouds. Mindfulness is all about clearing the clouds, clearing them so that you can experience the clear blue sky and the warm sunshine. The clear blue sky and sunshine is always there, except that sometimes the clouds cover it up. Yet, it is the clouds that are impermanent. The sky or the sun are permanent. The sky and the sun is always there, but the clouds are always shifting. Sometimes there are so many clouds that they completely block out the blue sky and sun, but eventually the clouds leave. This analogy gives us the key to understanding three things. Number one, the true self, the true nature of the human being, the awakened ego. In our analogy, the true self is the sky and the sun. Number two, the false self, the unconscious ego, which generates the thought stream. The voice in our head, the self-talk. This is represented by the clouds. Number three, mindfulness. Mindfulness is what allows us to see past the clouds, to clear the clouds. Now, get this. Thoughts are the clouds. They are simply phenomena that passes across the awareness of the clear blue sky. The true self is the clear blue sky. But when we identify with the thought stream, when we start to believe that we are whatever the thoughts tell us, when we believe that life is whatever the thoughts tell us it is, we create two painful outcomes for ourselves. Painful outcome number one, a broken self-view. These are beliefs about the self that are contrary to what you really are. They are also known as the false self. Painful outcome number 2. A broken worldview. These are beliefs about life that are based on fear, also known as Maya, or illusions that are contrary to truth. But if thoughts are not identified with, they simply cross the clear blue sky and go their way. No painful outcomes are created, nor suffering is created. The clear blue sky with sunshine is always there. Mindfulness allows you to begin to unidentify with your thoughts. It allows you to unidentify with your false self, unidentify with your small, limited, conditioned, programmed, socialized sense of self. And as you unidentify with this false self, you start to clear the clouds. And as you clear the clouds, you automatically start seeing your true, unlimited self. Eventually, you're completely liberated from your limited conditioning and programming. You are free from your false self. You emerge as your true self, an unfuckwithable, liberated, sovereign, deliberate creator being.
Are you ready to win?
Alright, if you like that, here are 7 more things for you. Number 1, download the free Awaken Your Avatar report. Number 2, take free trials of our self and world mastery courses. 3, download the free A Happy Pocket Full of Money illustrated book. 4, help me make more videos faster by supporting me on Patreon, and I'll reward you with some very, very cool perks. 5, subscribe, comment, and share this video. 6, get our cool merchandise like t-shirts, hats, mugs, and book recommendations. 7, help translate these videos' captions if you can. Thank you very much, and see you later.